Right, back on it again Sunday afternoon. I managed to start welding in the floor. Obviously, because it's galvanised, I have tried grinding off the galvanising coating, as I said yesterday. But obviously, it still does affect the quality of the welding. So, in a couple of places, I managed to get a nice bit on there, but in unfortunately, other places, I'm still having trouble with it. It seems to affect the burning temperature, and I've turned up the welders. I need to grind this bit off here just to make it a little bit more smoother. I'm sort of getting the hang of a little bit of the plug welding after a fashion. So obviously just a rear step area, and obviously it will all be coated later on to protect it. And I've also then properly cut the inner seal and initially butt welded it here. Just to show I've actually done that there. So what I intend to do now is to try and just to try and get a strip of metal and then go over it again, just to bridge the gap between to reinforce it. And I've also welded around the back of it as well, just to make sure it's welded both sides with plenty of penetration. I managed to get a catch on the inside, that's literally the end of the original repair panel here, just on some of the old metal. And I've also managed to get some welds around the back side of the extension I put on as well. So this inner seal is sort of attached now, as you can see. I'm going to put the patch on and then give this a good coating of Underseal, even though it's been it is galvanised. And I'll just sort of sighten out once I've done that the actual final fitment of the outer seal. I may end up joggling this bit here just to push in a little bit to try and make sure that it's obviously a nice smooth continuation down the down this A pillar. As you can see, sort of sits on okay-ish, but I would like to be, say, just recess the original panel a little bit, just so it doesn't obviously stick out too much once it's welded, because he wants to have a nice paint job on his fan at some stage. The front of the arch will probably be cut off, or the front piece of the seal will be cut off. I'm going to put the arch on later on once I've got this one welded on or tacked on. See if I want to cut the arch or cut the seal, but one or the other, one of them will be cut off to try and get again a nice smooth continuation down the actual arch. But yeah, getting there. Well, it's a little bit prettier, but it'll do. It's obviously caught on there okay, so that's the main thing. Right, this is the old spot weld I was lucky enough to be given a few years ago. Obviously it ceased to be used by the owner, and it unfortunately suffered a bit of a cable issue, so I'd obviously replaced the rest of it. At the time, tested it all out, and I've used it a couple of times in the past. It's a heavy old beast, as you can imagine, for the sort of current it's got to generate. I've literally just got enough room to get the present electrode sort of in here, because they are quite long. You can obviously shorten if you want to. Yeah, but obviously it works as it is. So I just about got enough room to get it in here. Just about got enough room to get it in this gap here. Already done a couple, as you can see. I did try it out on the material as well before I did a piece of the scrap that I cut off, or a piece of one of the actual piece I cut off the arch here. I sort of tested it out on that before a few days ago. So yeah, obviously I'm going to put them a couple inches apart all the way along to the very least here. I'm going to see if I can get on here as well, if possible, just to try and do a couple more here. You clamp it together with the top one, and then when you pull the bottom one up, you get a nice little click, and obviously that lasts for a few seconds, depending on obviously what setting you got it on, which you can obviously vary at the back here depending on the thickness of the metal, and then creates the obviously melts that do the two touching each other, and obviously yeah, forms a nice little spot weld. That's the way that the car was built in the first place, so should be good enough for this, and obviously makes a nice quicker job than trying to do all the welding. That timer just cuts out on its own, you don't have to do that, it just cuts out and just move on to the next one. So yeah, it's nice and quick anyway, if it's not too heavy. Yeah, it's definitely a heavy old bit of kit, but yes, I managed to get all the way along every sort of inch and a half. Got a few more around the bend here. Obviously it does get quite hot, cause a bit of smoking of the recently applied underseal. So now I can give that a good coating. All I've done here, the piece that I cut off was just around the back here, the one I was using for the lining up the holes. I've just literally welded that across the actual gap as it was handy, fitted in there nicely. Got it all the way around as much as I can. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Now to reinforce it, it's actually got a butt weld both sides in theory, plenty of penetration, obviously that as well. So a nice good cut of underseal going to go in there now. Time's getting on, the light's about to start fading, so that should just about do me for this evening. A nice coating of underseal all inside the inner seal, even though it's already been galvanised. Obviously I have done some welding on it, so it's going to help protect any of it where it's been burnt off. Obviously I've left the surfaces that will end up being spot welded again. These are just front facing surfaces. Let that dry overnight and hopefully I might be able to do some more tomorrow after work. Right, another afternoon session or early evening after work. I managed to come home and quickly have a go at fitting the outer seal. So I was able to get quite a few spot welds along the bottom edge. Had to do a bit of playing around with the spot welder just to get the tongue to sort of keep on contacting, because the galvanising seemed to wear them out quite a bit. Yes, that's come out reasonably well. Got quite a few in there, probably about every inch or so now. It did actually give out on me after a while, the spot welder, so I had to abandon it for now rather than muck around doing fault finding on it. I thought I'd crack on with the night it was going to be failing, so what I've done, I've just about got one on the 2 marks, just about got one I think along this edge with it. So I better go back in and resort to a bit of very fine MIG welding. Get a lot of splatter with the galvanising. So I've literally just caught the 2 edges together along this front bit here. Obviously the actual seal goes over there anyway, but it's nice and secured now. I will give it a little bit of a lip up with the flat wheel and the grinder, and then went back in and had a go at just trying to get some very light tacks on here, the join on the B post. Just did a few and then went back in, carried on going just to try and keep the heat down whilst also doing some work on here, so I've given this plenty of time to cool down between just filling up the gaps. So literally I'll have to grind a few off and get a bit more penetration on some of them, but I think that should be enough. And I did actually joggle the bottom edge of the original panel so that they were level, just put a step in it. So just so when you do grind it off, hopefully just maybe with a thin skimmer filler, hopefully won't have too much of a ridge between the original panel and the sill. And it just filled in a little bit of a gap that we had here between the sill and the B post. Just come out reasonably okay. And this is just brought around here, so a bit more clean up required, but I think it's come out quite well. I've just popped the wing, sort of bottom of the wing on, or the arch, sorry, the arch piece, just to see how it's looking. I could just whack it on and just weld the gap, but I would like to try and cut it and try and lap them together. So I'm not quite sure yet. I've got quite a good weld on the back of this seal underneath here, and obviously it doubles up around here, so I'm more than likely going to be trying to slice a little piece out of the arch here, and then do the same along here, and try and weld the arch to the actual seal, rather than have to go for the rig rail again. I'm trying to weld this piece round here. So let's have a quick little look. So under here I've got a couple of nice bites on it, and obviously this outer piece is actually the arch, whereas the inner piece that you see here, the inner lip, or the middle one as it appears, is the bottom of the seal. So as they say, this front piece is doubled up. Yeah, I'll probably leave that one, I imagine. I'll do it that way, probably cut the arch and try and fit it together. That's the back of the actual seal as well, where I cut it and welded both sides of it. Just see the spot welds from the other angle here. I've still got to weld that back edge here where the step meets the outrigger, and likewise I've still got to weld this piece here where the bottom of the outrigger meets the actual step. But that's all clean up, ready to go. As you can see, the light's failing, so a bit of tidy up and then another session maybe tomorrow.